Let's move on to our third game. This is the first match to have 2 goals in it. However, it should have had about 12.
Oh, I wonder
Hibs
where we're going.
to Aberdeen 0. How Hibs got a clean sheet of this one is unbelievable. This was quite something, this game. When Majowski, there's not been anything more certain this season than when Majowski was stood over that ball about to take that penalty that he was going to miss that. Absolutely 100% certain.
Brilliant, man.
It must have been, you were there, I take it.
I was,
It must have been quite a laugh.
Yeah. I mean, Davy Marshall, for a start, who's been much maligned and a lot of criticism, deserved criticism, mind you. But I think in terms, before I go on to talking about Aberdeen and obviously Majowski, I think Marshall is just another example of what Montgomery's done best, is get a lot more out of players that you thought were done. Or he's improved. Rocky Bashiri's looking really, really strong at left centre half now in terms of also him coming out with the ball, which was always the biggest issue with him because he was playing on the wrong foot, but we were asking him to do, obviously the whole team's being asked to play in this specific way. You weren't sure if it was going to work, but he's come on a lot through that. So Jair Tavares is the really obvious one, but we've about him. But then Marshall as well, and since the Rangers game at Ibrox was maybe a bit questionable, he's been really, really solid. Maybe the Majowski one in the final, the way he came out, maybe that's another one you could maybe have a go at, but you'd have to be really nitpicking there. But I think since he's come in, considering how much he's been asked to do with the ball, Marshall, I mean, he gets on the ball more than most outfield players now. Hibs pass the ball back to the goalie. Fucking loads. And there's loads of stuff. Even when they do the by kicks, he doesn't actually take the by kick. Bashiri passes to him, so it's live and play with him on the ball. So it's a lot for a goalie probably at his age to take on that he probably didn't do before. And then he's obviously plays the flat ball over the top for Boyle. The miss hit is by Robson saying that cunt says anything, eh? Just says anything. He just said it doesn't matter if it's in the worlds of reality. He just says fair play, like he just says anything, just whatever he thinks. Just makes it up. Like the time he always the ones where he makes up there is playing the most out of everyone. You're not. When you check the time, it's like you're.
I didn't realise he called it a miss hit.
No, he did. He called it a miss hit. The pass.
What was he? What did he think Marshall was trying to do? What's he claiming Marshall was trying to do?
Trying to do it loads in the start of the game. It was a feature of the first 15-20 minutes of the match.
Yeah, it kept happening over and over again.
Yeah. So I think that we've tried to do that. And from a house point of view, something I'm liking is that you're seeing again a bit more the evolution of the style and how we can use it, and the fact that with people wanting to come and go man for man because they want to press Hibs because they do the low ones, it gives us the opportunity to go over the top. Where you've got Boyle, it gives more options. And again, like Dundee, teams like Hibs are the ones that you're starting to see like a descendable style, which hasn't been a lot of in the Scottish Premiership this season. Where, and include the old firm in that, where you actually have that sort of identity, and you're starting to see that Hibs, even though there's obviously still parts you could massively improve. And in the second half, Aberdeen, I agreed with Robson on one thing though. It's certainly it's one of the best I've seen them play under him in terms of as a full unit.
Yeah, they were creating loads. It was like loads and loads of chances. Like they started, you started they started quite poorly. Like Hibs were 1-0 up, and it wasn't just that goal. They had the other opportunities to. Like a couple of kind of half chances, but also just in terms of just having opportunities around about the Aberdeen penalty area, and you just kind of thought, Christ, Aberdeen. I remember thinking about 25 minutes into the game, I was like, Aberdeen are rubbish. Like, can we just actually count them out as contenders for third already? Because they just don't look very good. And then they started to dominate, and then they had like a couple of chances to really score, and then they had a couple more, and then a couple more.
Yeah. And
then Hibs started the second half pretty good. Like, first 10 minutes.
They started both halves well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Aberdeen again dominate for this time for another 50 minutes. You actually put in the group chat, Hibs somebody touched the ball in 50 minutes, and now they're 2-0 up.
When Fish scored the header, I was like, Hibs somebody touched the ball in about 50 minutes.
And I think for this one, it was maybe, I think what Aberdeen are well, I was going to say good at, because maybe good at's a bit of a stretch, because you've got Leighton Clarkson and you've got Graham Shinney, neither of whom have had particularly good campaigns. But I felt the three in the middle for Aberdeen worked very well.
It did. Clarkson had his best game in ages.
Clarkson had his best game in ages, and Shinney had one of his best games of the season. He was always that extra attacker. Like, he was getting forward so much. And yeah, maybe with somebody with a bit more poise on the ball. I didn't do anything too badly, but there was sometimes passes were slightly behind, and like there was a time he kind of drove in the centre and he played it to McGarry. McGarry was free, but Shinney was central, and he could have just had a pop at goal himself. So there was a couple of things that maybe you want somebody who's a bit used to being a forward, but Shinnie would just seem to always be the extra man spare when Aberdeen attacked. And I did wonder whether that was the Aberdeen's, like I say, not necessarily a strength this year, but usually what you would consider a strength to their team is their centre midfield with the personnel they have in there.
Aye.
And maybe just exploiting the fact that they were going against 2 Hibs players in the centre and 2 guys who aren't very good at tracking a Graham Shinnie type.
No, not at all. And Shinnie was like having. It was the first time in a while that I'd seen Graham Shinnie have the Shinnie game where he's in the ref's ear, he's playing right behind him, he's making the fouls that you just don't understand how he's able to make them and not get booked. It is an art form that he has perfected. And he was doing all that, and I was like, really, like with Clarkson as well. I was like, oh, this is what they were signing. This is what they were visualising when they had it. I think there's also a bit of the handbrake may taken off a bit from Robson because he didn't start this way. He doesn't start any games like this. And I think there's starting to be a realisation from Robson that he's in fucking bother. Like, and then maybe that he can't keep playing the way he does because this is he'll bemoan this, but in terms of Hibs and Aberdeen have played 3 times, so they're teams that have played the most this season in the league. And the patterns are that in the first 2, so they just weren't interested in touching the ball. And in the first one at Pittodrie, Aberdeen were abysmal when Hibs won 2-0. And that was Hibs' first win of the season. And then in the semi-final, they were rubbish. They didn't take part. And that looked quite deliberate that they would allow Hibs to sort of dominate a game.
It was driving me fucking mental.
And then this game, they finally do that. And then I've
had to watch Hearts this season, and I've not been as annoyed at a game as I was at that semi-final.
But this one, they played, like you're saying, you're playing Clarkson, you're playing McGrath, you're playing him further back with Eskler and Biowski. They also done this against Rangers when they showed the aggression. They were well on top of them, and they were well in that game. And then they stopped doing it, and it drives you. It's like Alec Miller vibes from kids will be like, who? but you know what I mean, where it's just so negative, and it was interesting to see this Aberdeen. And the problem for Robson is he never got the result. And now it's like, if you've got the board going like that, well, that was the team with the handbrake off. Looked like we could score a shitloads of goals. Maybe somone else would be able to do that and Aberdeen would be good. So catch-22. He got the performance out of them, a style of performance that he's not got this season, really. And then he didn't get the result that he needed from it. And now it's like, are they going to be willing to keep sticking with it? I would, because it was something there. And the team, again, clearly playing for him. But I'm assuming that guy that was tweeting us about Rubizic doing well in international football won't be back anytime soon.
The guy seems to listen to every podcast just to complain about what we say. Thanks, mate. Keep listening, but I don't know why you are. You seem to hate us.
That's what the point is. So that's what the whole thing is. That's how these things work. But Rubizic had a nightmare and hadn't been particularly good the last couple of weeks. And he was probably at fault for Boyle's goal.
Oh, God,
dead by Miles, because he just evacuates the dance floor.
Sorry, not Boyle's goal. Venty's
goal. And then who you were saying doesn't score enough goals on the telly a day before.
It was
good. Thank you, Craig.
Somebody was always going to come back and bite me out of that. I named fucking loads of players.
Every single player.
Clarkson had one of his best games in ages. Tagawa, actually, we'll come on to that soon.
Maybe they were all watching.
Tagawa looked alright as well. Who else did? Ewan was still on the bench.
Sockler.
I saw Close playing.
He still blazed over the bar a couple of times.
It was good to because we recorded the night before, so it was good to say all that and then find out that Pap Gay, because he was one of the players I mentioned, had been taken off at half time.
I mean, he's having the worst. But just before we move on, it was like I thought Aberdeen were quite smart in the way that they tried to isolate Rory Whittaker, obviously 16-year-old. They went down his side a lot with McGarry, and then later on he was having to deal with Duke. And they had Shinnie coming over there, just lots of people coming over to take turns. They were really focusing down that side, as you would going up against things. Hibs also having no alternatives on the bench to really play the role. It was him or nothing. Whittaker I liked because he's really composed on the ball. He's nice when he comes in field. He looks like he will be quite a modern, especially fullback, in his way of doing it. But he was looking tired towards the end. And then Johnny Hayes comes on, Duke comes on, and they're just going at him. God, like, felt for him. You could see his legs had gone, and there was no option to take him off. And I was like, this child's being bullied, leave him.
But it's all right, because Aberdeen could have played all day and night and not scored.
Exactly, and it was incredible. And obviously David Marshall, huge for him to get that kind of performance and get the fans on side that settles the fans in these moments. I think that's always a huge thing. A bit of trust gets built and a bit of popularity. And then obviously Bashiri and Fish both played well. I know Aberdeen made chances, but they were having to deal with a lot of stuff, and Fish getting the goal, and then obviously Levitt having a wild game in terms of seeing all the positives of Levitt and all the negatives every 3 or 4 minutes. That's what it was like watching Levitt. When we're on top, great. When you're not on top, not good.